Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is part 3, the final part of this 3-part one-shot series. Enjoy! Back inside the room, while you and Toga were discussing plans outside, Tamaki was focusing all of his remaining energy into creating even just the smallest tendril of a vine in the hopes that he could snake it around and under the ropes under his wrist and wrap it tight enough that he could somehow break the worn ropes and be free. But then what do I do once I'm free? He thought as he looked around the windowless room. I'll have to go out the front door, and she'd definitely be there on the other side waiting for me. Do I have the strength to fight her? What if there's more than just her? I'd definitely be overpowered. His eyes downcast, and his face fell into a defeated frown, lips wobbling into a concerned line as his elf ears dropped outwards. The small tendril on his right wrist grew to only an inch and then stopped, and he could feel the sweat starting to bead on his forehead from the effort of trying to force it to grow. I can't do this, he sighed internally, his head flopping forwards as he resigned to his fate and recalled his quirk, sucking the tendril back into his skin and letting his mouth fall open as he panted from the exertion. As he sank slowly into his depression, a sudden image of Mirio came to mind, the words of his hero companion calling him to not give up. He bit down on his teeth, gritting them as he wrinkled his nose with sudden determination and scrunched his brows together. No, I can do this. I have to do this, he thought with renewed energy. A vine isn't going to help me in this situation. I need to explode the ropes. I need to use my chimera arm and make my arms too big for the vines to hold. Clenching his hands into a ball, he focused and prepared to release his quirk, but the door suddenly slammed open, and you came twirling back into the room, skipping merrily around his chair as his surprised and terrified eyes tried to follow you. Are you enjoying your stay? You giggled into his left ear as you danced around behind him. He stayed still, trying not to get disappointed that he had run out of time. Aw, no words? You asked with another giggle, spinning around and dancing in front of him before stopping and placing your hands on your hips, then hinging forwards from the waist. You'll learn to love this place, especially since I'll be with you. His intense eyes locked onto yours, but he kept his face neutral. You didn't dare try to kiss him at that point, as you couldn't read his expression. He didn't look defeated. In fact, he looked very determined, undoubtedly tired, but determined. He'd definitely have tasted terrible at that point. You paused. Is it too early for phase 2? You wondered. Wanting to get the most out of the second part of your plan, you decided to really make him desperate to be let go. It would really heighten the experience when he thought someone had come to his rescue, only to find out that it was all fake. You straightened and dropped your hands off your hips, then slowly walked towards him, stepping one of your legs between his, with your other leg on the outside of his right knee. If you behave, I'll let you free. Then you can come to my room, you said suggestively. We can do lots in there. Tamaki averted his eyes from yours, and a blush dusted his cheeks, which made you giggle. No need to be modest, he giggled as he placed a hand down his thigh and slowly slid it up to the joint of his body. Stop, he whispered out in a wobbly voice, the discomfort starting to show on his face. You couldn't help it but dipped your face quickly to his and grabbed his chin, expertly flicking his face towards yours so you could kiss him deeply. He was still lacking in enough energy to fight you, and you managed to get a good kiss in from him, delving your tongue between his lips to salvage as much of the sweetness as possible. It didn't taste as good as disappointment, but it was a mild sweetness nonetheless, like rosewater. You hummed with exuberance. I love you, Sun Eater. He slumped again, his vision going dim, but he did his best not to fall unconscious. I need to escape. I need to escape, he chanted to himself, his vision doubling and his ears ringing. She keeps getting the best of me. I can't let this go on. Just then the door to the small room burst open, and Tamaki looked up, his blurry, wobbly vision just making out the unmistakable image of Mirio. Hey, I'm here, Mirio said. Lemillion? Tamaki whispered feebly, his shaky muscles slowly raising his head as a hopeful look crossed his face. Oh no! You gasped, trying to put on your best acting. Let's get you out of here, Mirio said brightly, walking confidently over to Tamaki. Wait, Tamaki whispered, his strength slowly coming back to him. Apprehend Yin first. Oh, you called me by my first name, you gushed, pressing your palms of hands to cheeks. I can deal with her once I've freed you, Mirio said, reaching his hand towards Tamaki. Quickly, the blonde hero undid Tamaki's binds and helped the unsteady elf-esque hero to his feet. I can help you fight, Tamaki said in a feeble voice, doing his best to hold his own weight on his legs. I know you can, Mirio said brightly. You're a hero after all. Tamaki felt his confidence surge, being held by his friend and fellow hero, buoyed by his encouraging words. We can do this, he said as he stepped away a little so that he was side by side with Mirio. You giggled and spun around, then danced over to Tamaki, making sure that you were close enough to get that final kiss in when the reveal happened. Tamaki glanced towards Mirio when you came within range, but then paused, wondering why Mirio had gone quiet. You'll have to take this one on your own, Mirio said with a thumbs up, his body starting to melt away. Tamaki watched on, horrified, as Mirio slowly morphed into another villain that he'd seen before, Toga. His emotions in that moment were indescribable, and you almost felt the roller coaster with him, your feet propelling you forwards as your need for that sweet, sweet kiss consumed your mind. Your lips met his and your eyes closed to savour the taste. For a second the taste was the sweetest you'd ever tasted. Then all of a sudden a vine was wrapped around your waist, and the flavour on your tongue soured, and a giant clamshell knocked Toga flying. This ends now, a determined voice stated, and your eyes flew open and met a now enraged Tamaki, who had somehow managed to catch his emotions before you drained him completely. No! You screeched, fighting against his vines as they wrapped more firmly around you. The rest was a bit of a blur, and a lot of it was blocked by the sudden presence of wings as Tamaki thrust all of his quirk power into top gear and created as many creature qualities as possible, escaping from the room, out into the hall, and then out the front door of the building and into the brilliant sunshine and away. You struggled as much as you could, screaming and thrashing in your plant-based ties as you were held captive and stolen away. It was the end for you. You had well and truly been captured. Resigning to that fact, you switched from fighting to sobbing, lamenting that Phase 2 hadn't yielded the product that you'd dreamed about. But I love you, you cried as Tamaki made it onto one of the main streets. A patrolling hero spotted the ragged-looking hero with you in his quirk binds and came running to help, calling for backup as he rushed to Tamaki's aid. It was a good 20 minutes later that Mirio finally caught up with Tamaki as you were being loaded into the back of the police van. Sun Eater! Mirio called as he ran over. Oh, Mirio, is it really you? Tamaki asked as he turned to look at his friend. Why, of course it's me, Mirio said brightly. Unless you prefer me upside down, he asked as he bent over to the side and grinned up at Tamaki. Oh, it's definitely you, Tamaki said with a small close-lipped smile. What happened? Mirio asked, looking from a dirty, tired and messy Tamaki to you, now sitting glumly in the back of the police van with your head hung low. It's a long story, Tamaki sighed, but I owe a lot to Yin. He looked across to you with a gentle look in his eye. She's taught me a lot, just by kissing me. I owe my strength to her. As he said that, the police door slammed shut, leaving you alone in the back of the van to think about everything that had happened. You sighed and lifted your head, and then rested it back against the inside of the van as you stared up at the white roof. Well, I guess positive things aren't all that bad, you thought as the police van started up. And there ends Gimme a Kiss. I'm now going to go back and show Aujiro some more love, so stay tuned for part 2 of Yin and Yang, coming next Wednesday. I'll see you there.